Welcome back to Investing Talk Podcast. We're here to help you navigate the fascinating and sometimes pretty wild world of the markets. Today, we're tackling a question that's probably on a lot of minds right now. Is Linkhome Holdings a good time to buy? We've gathered a stack of recent info on Linkhome, a company that's definitely making some serious waves. Our mission is to unpack all of this for you so you can walk away with a clear understanding of what's really happening with this stock.
Yeah, we'll look at the company's fundamentals, its valuation, recent market action, and what the future might hold. The goal is really to give you the most important insights from all the available data, just help you make sense of this new player in the market.
Okay, and before we dive in, if you're finding these discussions helpful, please take a moment to subscribe, like, and comment. It really does help us bring more of these analyses to you. And if you'd like to support us further, maybe consider buying us a coffee. Also, if there's a specific company you'd like us to look into next, please leave a comment below and let us know. We love getting your requests. Okay, let's unpack this for Linkhome Holdings. First off, what exactly is Linkhome Holdings, and what do its initial financials tell us?
Right, so Linkhome Holdings is essentially an AI-powered prop tech company, prop tech being property technology. Their mission, they say, is to simplify home ownership using AI-driven tools and fintech solutions. What's kind of fascinating here is their proprietary AI model. They call it Home GPT, which they actually combine with the work of real estate agents. That's a key differentiator, they claim.
Home GPT.
Yeah, they're relatively new to the public markets, obviously, but they're positioned in what could be a high-growth niche, AI and real estate together.
So a real estate tech company leaning heavily on the AI side. Okay. What about the money side of things? How are they looking financially right now? This is what, late July 2025?
Well, this raises an important point about these early-stage companies. Their trailing 12 months revenue is approximately $12.18 million.
Okay, 12 million.
And they reported a net income of around $818,573.
Oh.
Which, indicates a pretty slim profit margin.
Right, barely profitable.
Exactly. Their EPS, earnings per share, for the trailing 12 months is just 0 and 6 cents in time. So this suggests, very early stage profitability, but the absolute earnings are quite small.
That's a good distinction. Small, but actually in the black. What about debt or cash flow? Anything on that?
Yeah, public information on detailed debt levels or cash flow data is pretty limited at this stage. It's just too early. However, we do know they recently completed their IPO, and they raised $6 million from that.
Okay, fresh cash.
Right. And these proceeds are intended to fund marketing, product development specifically for their Home GPT AI platform, and just general corporate stuff. So it definitely indicates a recent cash infusion, and the company is likely still investing very heavily in growth, burning through some of that cash, presumably.
Right, investing in the future. Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, I think. The stock's performance since its debut. This is often the first thing people notice, right? Can you walk us through that?
Oh, yeah. It's been a wild ride. Linkhome Holdings debuted on Nasdaq very recently, July 24th, 2025. It was priced at $4 per share for the IPO.
$4, okay.
Then it just saw this incredible surge. It soared over 270% on its first day, closing around $10.31 by July 25th.
Wow. Over 270%.
Yeah, it shows just tremendous initial market buzz.
Yeah.
Hype, maybe.
That's a huge jump right out of the gate. What does that kind of initial pop, that frenzy tell us about its current valuation? It must be pretty high.
Well, yeah. If we connect this to the bigger picture, it definitely explains some of their valuation metrics. For example, their PE ratio, price to earnings, is extremely high. It's sitting at 182.47.
Oh, 182.
Right, and that reflects very, very low current earnings relative to its stock price, which, is often common in these high-growth or newly public companies where investors are basically betting everything on future potential.
Okay, so the PE is sky high. What about other valuation measures? Price to sales, price to book, anything there?
Well, specific PS, price to sales, and PB, price to book, ratios aren't detailed in the early reports, but we can estimate. With a market capitalization of about $165 million against that $12.18 million in revenue, the PS ratio comes out to around 13.5.
13.5, how does that compare?
It's quite high, relative to traditional real estate or even many established tech peers. Very high. And no publicly available discounted cash flow analysis exists yet, just not enough history, limited operating history, recent IPO. You can't really model it that way yet.
So high valuation, definitely high volatility. What does the technical analysis suggest, even with its, super short history? Is there anything to see there?
You're right. Volatility is a major factor here. On July 25th alone, the intraday range was $8.60. up to $13.
Big swings.
Huge swings. And its 52-week range, though it's mostly just its first few days of trading, has been $4.20 up to $22.33.
Wow.
Yeah. This just indicates significant price swings and a lot of speculative trading activity. The overall trend has been sharply upward, obviously, but highly, highly volatile. And like you said, we don't have nearly enough trading history yet for typical moving averages or indicators like RSI or MACD. It's just too soon.
This initial pop certainly generated a ton of excitement. What's the general sort of sentiment around Linkhome Holdings right now, beyond the charts?
Yeah, the IPO was probably strategically priced low at $4 to attract investors. And it was actually upsized from the original plan, which, helped lead to those huge first-day gains and generated really strong market buzz. As far as analysts go, there aren't any formal analyst ratings or price targets reported post-IPO yet. That's pretty typical. But there are early signs of institutional investor attention. The big money is likely evaluating its growth prospects right now. Social sentiment, like on forums and stuff, is currently positive, mainly because of that IPO pop. But the potential for really rapid sentiment shifts is high, given that volatility we talked about.
Okay, so we've got a high growth, potentially high reward, but definitely high volatility stock. What are the upcoming events or developments that could really impact Linkhome Holdings? What should people watch for?
Right, looking at potential catalysts. In the short term, the upcoming quarterly earnings reports will be absolutely crucial.
Their first ones as a public company.
Exactly. They'll need to validate their growth trajectory and that slim profitability. Big test. Also, any product updates or milestones related to their Home GPT AI platform and their cash offer fintech rollout, those will be really important signals.
And what about the longer view? What moves the needle long term?
Long term, it's really all about their execution on expansion plans.
Yeah.
Can they scale this? And potentially any mergers and acquisitions activity within the AI and PropTech space could be significant. Also, just wider adoption of AI-driven real estate services. If the market really embraces this kind of tech, that would be a huge tailwind for them, assuming their tech is good, of course.
Right. Assuming the Home GPT really works as advertised. Now, with that kind of potential, there must be some risks. What are the major ones you see for Linkhome Holdings?
Oh, definitely. This raises that important question again about newly public companies. Companies' specific risks include, well, just being newly public. They have a limited operating history, a very small earnings base, and that high valuation we keep mentioning. It significantly increases the downside risk if their growth expectations falter even slightly.
Yeah, expectations are sky high.
Exactly. There's also a heavy reliance on continued product innovation and market adoption. If they stumble on the tech front, or if people just don't adopt it, that's a big risk.
And within the sector itself, it sounds like a competitive space.
It is. The prop tech sector is highly competitive. You've got incumbents, you've got other new startups, and everyone's trying to adopt AI fast. So failure to really differentiate itself could impair Linkhome's growth pretty quickly. And then on a broader macro level, things like real estate market volatility, interest rates, those greatly impact consumer behavior, which could definitely affect their business.
Makes sense. And finally, let's talk about that volatility again. That seems like a risk in itself.
Yes, absolutely. The very high stock price volatility and the huge volume swings we saw post-IPO suggest significant risk, especially for short-term traders. While liquidity, the ability to buy and sell easily, is improving, it's still evolving. It's not like trading Apple or Microsoft.
Okay, so after all that analysis, the big question. What's the overall assessment for Linkhome Holdings? Is it a good time to buy?
Okay, so in our evaluation, putting it all together, Linkhome Holdings currently receives an overall rating of 5 out of 10.
A 5 out of 10, right down the middle. Can you walk us through the rationale there? What puts it at a 5?
Well, the stock shows strong potential. It's an innovative AI-driven prop tech company, no doubt about that. And it had a solid initial market response post-IPO, showing there's interest.
For pop.
Right. However, its fundamental profitability is still, nascent. Very early days. Its valuation is quite stretched, as we discussed, and its volatility is very high. So it's definitely a speculative growth stock operating in an emerging niche. It's probably most appropriate for investors who are pretty risk tolerant. You need to be comfortable with big swings.
Okay. So for someone considering getting in, maybe someone who is risk tolerant, what would be a more advisable entry point given its wild ride so far from $4 to over $10 and even higher peaks?
Yeah, good question. Given its IPO pricing was $4 and it's currently trading around $10.31 after all that volatility, jumping in right now feels pretty risky. A potentially better entry perhaps might be in the $6 to $8 range.
Okay. waiting for a pullback.
Exactly. This would require the price to retrace a bit, maybe amid some profit-taking, but it would balance the risk and reward more favorably, in my opinion. Gives you a bit more cushion.
And what kind of investor is this really best suited for? Short-term or long-term hold?
I'd say Linkhome Holdings is better suited for long-term investors, people who are willing to ride out that early volatility and the uncertain growth path. You're essentially betting on the broader adoption of AI and prop tech over several years.
Okay.
Short-term traders could try to play the swings, but they must be prepared for those wide intraday moves and be ready to use very strict risk management. It's not for the faint of heart.
Right. Any specific trading guidance for those brave short-term players you just mentioned? Any tips?
Well, for anyone considering it, especially short-term, a stop-loss order is pretty crucial. Maybe set it around 15–20% below your entry point. That's advisable just to protect from sharp corrections.
Like if you bought at $7, maybe a stop around $5.60.
Exactly, something like that. Also, maybe consider taking partial profits on initial large rallies. If it jumps 30–50%, perhaps sell a portion. Again, because of that high volatility, gains can disappear fast.
Locks them in. Makes sense. Okay, so to sum it all up, Linkhome Holdings, it's an early stage, high volatility IPO stock. It's got promising AI, real estate, tech exposure, but it comes with some challenging fundamentals right now and a definitely stretched valuation.
That's a good summary. Conservative investors might want to watch from the sidelines, maybe wait for a better entry on a pullback, let the dust settle a bit. However, for growth-focused investors, the ones with a high tolerance for risk and volatility, it could be considered, but strictly for its long-term potential, understanding the risks involved.
What stands out to you the most about Linkhome Holdings after digging into all this? For me, it really highlights that tension between incredible, maybe revolutionary potential and the very real, tangible risks you see in these brand new high-growth companies.
Yeah, I agree. It's a classic story of innovation meeting market hype, maybe. The potential is there, but the execution and the path forward are still very uncertain.
Definitely something for you, our listeners, to mull over as you think about your own next move in the market. Is the potential worth the risk for your portfolio? That's it for this analysis. We appreciate you tuning in to Investing Talk Podcast. We'll be back soon with another deep dive into what's moving the markets.